Mana, Harfi, and Ismi. What it is meant by is Nursi introducing this idea. What did he mean by it? What did he apply and use and explain? Since Dr. Nejati is expert on that, we made a bit change, inshallah. We'll start with him, his presentation. As I said, there is no time limit. I usually say, of course, I'm sure our fellows will remember from this side, remember Professor Aftas said, there is no time for, even when we start speaking, we finish when we finish our idea. But of course, there is also a human barrier, how much can we take it, we need a little time to relax and so on. So I would suggest, again, like 20-25 minutes, if they can plan themselves for that speech. I'm not going to stop, as I said. When they finish, inshallah, we'll start our discussion and brainstorming. The time until 5 p.m. today, depending on how much you reflect and how much you ask and comment and so on, we will see. We'll, inshallah, continue in this way. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Nejati Aydan from University in Saudi Arabia. By the way, he has double PhDs, one in economics and one in science education. So double PhDs in the US is his PhDs. At the moment he's teaching over there, and we together established an institute running at the moment, trying to develop a master's degree, inshallah, Institute of Integrated Knowledge. So I am supposed to be the president of that, and he is my deputy in the same institute, and we keep on giving certificate courses for the past 5 years every semester. There are many Indonesians participating also in those courses. So now, and we primarily use this perspective. So he will, inshallah, explain it to us. Thank you very much.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. So it's very, very pleased to have such an event, to be at such a place. So it's like the dream coming into the reality. So generally I say, what happens if I have opportunity, someone, a rich guy give me $1 billion and say, establish a university, establish schools and educate Muslims. I'm actually, I'm really scared to have such opportunity. Though it's difficult to find a rich people to give you $1 billion to do that, but I'm really scared if anyone give me $1 billion and say go and establish a university or school like this, because the way I'm looking at that, we have been working on this one, and I congratulate you, you have it, but I'm going to scare you that your mission here is extremely difficult. So it's not an easy job, and it's getting even more difficult every day. So so far, alhamdulillah, we have not been given such responsibility, so therefore we're not going to accountable, but we're trying to at least be prepared if in the future we are given such opportunity, what can we do? So we have been working with Dr. Al-Faslan and others for several years, trying to see how we can come up with an educational model that's holistic, that is integrated, that is realistic, that can really provide a practical alternative to the secular education. And the more we get into it, the more we get scared. That's really not an easy job, okay? So I was in summer, I was in US again, and I was there before for over 10 years, and I was there for 2 months, and the way I see how the West is going to complete dead end, and how the rest of the world follow that, I'm glad that lagging behind in terms of really this, decline, but I'm afraid that it's going to come here as well, and it is terrible, and I don't know what is going to happen when you look at it. So therefore we have to be prepared, and the solution has to go through education, and unfortunately, if we really look at it, we cannot offer, let's say, we don't have any single university they could point to say this is really a top university in terms of the quality of education and truly Islamic university in terms of providing an integrated approach to the knowledge, okay? So the subject we're going to talk about, actually I have a lot of slides and a lot to talk. First we said, let's not talk about it because we're here to really discuss, to get into honest intellectual discourse on the issues that we all care about it. But then I think we're advised that it's better to provide some background because the discussion, we think the discussion will be around Nursi's Harfi perspective. Now, Nursi dedicated his entire life to this issue, to this matter. And he didn't do anything else.
And he had, like you have it here in Waqf, so he not only gave up the worldly thing, he waqf all his life as well to that. As you know, your model is very much similar to Nursian model, as Quranic model actually. So in this regard, and he was extremely, I would say, intelligent and had an amazing memory. And while he was in Islamic, Islamic knowledge, but despite that, and he came up with some things, but unfortunately, we have not still come up with something that could really work in practice. So what I'm going to do, so we have spent, as I mentioned, really we have been spending almost 8 years on this subject. And the summer, the whole summer, I just maybe each day spend around 14 hours to just work on this integration of knowledge, and we drafted a guide for teachers on that one. That we have a model we're gonna cover over the weekend. So what I'm gonna do, basically, having said that, I really came here with all intention to see how we can interact to get, because you are actually you're doing something on field in practice. So obviously there are a lot we could learn from you. So we have some things, let's say in theory, that we came up with. So what I'm going to do, I will just go over Nursi's idea as quick as possible, hopefully in 30 minutes. And that will hopefully provide some background for our discussion today and tomorrow, since the whole workshop is organized around Nursi. Know what is his idea, what he thinks about that. So first I'm going to talk about really in terms of what Nursi, in terms of the problem. Then I'm going to go to Nursi's concept directly. Essentially, the problem, as Dr. Hassan mentioned in the morning, is really the problem of knowledge, or the problem of science, is all our interpretation of the knowledge. So in this regard, that when we really look at it, what is the problem here? That we get scientific knowledge, we treat it as ilm, that Al-Quran mentioned very clearly. This cannot be ilm because it's human knowledge, and therefore it's subject to be tested, and it could be false. But unfortunately, what we call scientism, in which that they provide the scientific knowledge as is absolute truth. And the problem with that, this scientific knowledge comes with certain embedded ideology. So, and for that reason, it's really become very difficult to even identify the problem. Unfortunately, in many places we see that people have difficulty to even see the embedded ideology. So essentially, when we look at the science, we see science is all about studying chains, studying causes, studying choices. I call the triple C. I call this essentially, the way it explains it is separate created from creation, and it's explain the changes in science is a major problem. So again, the idea here is that basically you observe change, and then you see the cause, and you see effect. Basically, the cause is the source of the effect. So, and that's how we go and teach everyone. The whole scientific education is about cause and effect. That you want to understand anything, you study, you make observation, you come up with theory, and you go and teach everyone. But if you really look at the way that we teach science, there is absolutely no room for God. Why? Because the assumption here, the materialism or the material causation is sufficient to understand the change. Therefore, no need to bring God. And actually, I saw many, even Muslim scientists, they will tell me, don't bring God when you teach physics, don't bring God when you teach chemistry, because there's no need to mention that. You can talk about God in Islamic studies, but not in chemistry or physics, because chemistry and physics can be explained purely based on observational data out there. So we think this is a major problem. So you can, because that basically means that we do not understand the underlying problems within that. So essentially, we're going to comment, I will explain in the second part. In Nursi's views, there are three, he mentioned that actually 4 enemies, or he used the Quranic word taghut. So, and he says that my whole life basically has been passed with fighting with 4 enemies. One is internal, he called anania, is the ego. And the other 3 is externals and nature, material causation, and chance. So he believes that essentially in modern times, those are the 3 goddesses of secular ideology that everyone, even believers, unknowingly embrace them. And Nursi very explicitly says there are certain concepts that actually its concept essentially is a shirk. But he says that believers even use them, they don't know they are committing shirk when they use this concept. So, and therefore Nursi really spent all of his life to fight against that. So in a way, the way, when we look at Nursi's idea, so we see essentially the problem is to this connection between creator and creation, and then connecting everything to nature, cause, and chances. So in other words, if you want to understand and explain any things, that those 3 things will be sufficient, and no need to talk about God. So in a way, we argue basically from that, that we come up with basically an ideology that take them away. A dual view. In a sense, when we use the Quranic analogy, so essentially, if we have a problem in raising good generation, it's because that we have a problem in knowledge or in education in particular. So in this case, we think there are, in Quranic term, a lot of kalimatun khabisatun that's really shaping the mind and heart of people. And among them that really we need to be aware is materialism, naturalism, scientism, positivism, atheism, hedonism, deism, all kind of ism actually. That are among kalimatun khabisatun that's really shaped the minds and heart of people in modern times. And again, we go through them, there are many examples of them, I'm not going to spend time on that. But when we really look at the Quran, we see Quran is very clear that every moment is directly coming from God, connected to God. You cannot consider even a single leaf falling down without God. The Quran is very explicit on that. So in a way that you have the Quran put God at the center of everything, but then you have a secular worldview that basically take away God from everything and ascribe everything to the nature, chance, and material causes. Now there are a lot of actually work on that one in terms of secularism. One would really benefit a lot is Charles Taylor. Taylor described the 3 types of secularization, but we actually add the 4th one. So the 4th type of secularization, which we think is the source of those 3, is really separating creator from creation. So in a sense that making people to think secular about the creation. In terms of the diagnosis of problem, when we really look at it, we see, I don't know, like we look at it, there are modern Muslim scholars like Sayyid Hussein Nasr, did a very good job. Al-Attas, we're going to hear, I think did really excellent jobs in diagnosing the problem and telling what is really the problem in modern times. And we think Nursi, should be considered amongst those in terms of diagnosing the problem and coming up with certain solution as well. So when you read the Nasr, I think you get quite good awareness of the problem, but I don't think you come up with good solution to how to deal with problem. Saying my reading of Al-Attas is an excellent, but I say, okay, what is really the solution? And I feel the solution part is not complete there. That you see, you will say adab is missing, but how are you going to get adab and how would you translate into that? And then when you look at, let's say, in terms of the practical, some examples, you see that's struggling out there to see how we could come up with a good practical model. So in this regard, basically I'm going to move to directly Nursi's concept. So again, basically the idea here, the whole secular ideology put emphasis on nature, cause, and chance, and treat everything as kind of ordinary outcome of this. While when you look at Quran, that you see everything is just direct creation. So there is no actual true causation as well. And that's why we said it's a major virus that's killing everyone and threatening everyone around the world to the level. Now what we see in the West, it's really, it's not only that kind of, destroy the human side of humanity, it's get to the level they are actually imposing on others as well, on the rest of society as well. They used to do through the media alone. Now, I was talking with Dr. Turhan as well, and I think it's everywhere. They're using the government's power to impose on others as well, in the West particularly. Then what is really the solution? So now I want to briefly explain it, Nursi concept, and I will say that it's really interesting when I will start to work on this one and realize that how Nursi, at the beginning of 20th century, managed to understand the problem and come up with solution that we, even after 100 years, not quite clear what is the problem and what is the solution. So essentially, this is, a statement on the screen. What you see, a group of high school students went to Nursi, and they were complaining. Their main complaint was very interesting. They told him, tell us about our Creator. Our teachers do not speak of God. So it's very interesting the way they asked, because I did search about this one. I was told that actually those students went to Nursi because their teacher, they had an atheist teachers. And the atheist teacher were actually preaching them atheism. But ironically, when they went to Nursi, they did not say our teachers are atheists, they are denying God. What they said our teachers do not speak of God, they only teach science. So to me, that was really interesting, because the core of problem was not atheism. The core of problem is actually teaching science without mentioning God. So that's the reason that it seems like God made them to ask questions in a way that addressing the core of the problem. Because many places I see that people see evolution is a problem, atheism problem. I say, no, this is not the problem, this is a symptom. The real problem, the real virus is actually in the very knowledge that is secularized, that talking about the creation without creator, which almost most Muslims see that's not a problem at all. They think just you talk about plant, a tree, atoms, stars. Why? You don't have to. You just say God create them, put some ayah and hadith in between, that now become Islamic. We say no, it can't, because the whole narrative there is based on certain ideology. So in this regard, when we really look at Nursi, so we see in his life, he gave enormous importance to science. He memorized some science books. He will compete with some teachers and prove it that he even knows more than them. And he says he memorized 80 books, and among them there were several science textbooks as well. Imagine that how much he loved science, because he thought that Science is really a staircase to God. So, but later on he realized science come up with a very embedded ideology, and science actually, later he confessed, he wrote it, he said that he realized that science was actually destructive to him with this ideology. But what did he do? Rather than just being anti-science, he realized the problem is not with the science itself, it's with the embedded ideology in the science. So therefore, when he answered that students, he didn't say, don't actually go to school or don't listen to science. He told them in this statement, he says that do not listen to teachers, but listen to science, which means do not pay attention to the ideology, but actually pay attention to the actual science, the real science. So that was his idea. Now, when we really look at it, Nursi get this concept, I think he kind of get clear on this one when he was around the age of 40. In a book called Masnawi, he wrote it this very explicitly. He said that basically when he reflects on his 40 years of his life and 30 years of his education, he basically realized that all he has learned can be summarized in 4 words and 4 sentences. And the 4 words, they put it actually, I put it essentially, it's like in 3 words. I put 3 because to me, 3 words describe the problem and 3 words offer the solution. The words that he says the most important one we'll discuss this morning is a niyyah, is intention. He realized there's absolutely nothing more important to that than everything start with niyyah, and everything you need to look at the niyyah first if you want to solve it as well. Second is nadar. So nadar is like a reflective perspective of what is your perspective on certain things. And then the third one he realized that is that the 2 dimensions, Harfi and Ismi dimension. And then he says basically the way he used those 4 concepts that essentially help us to diagnose the problem and offer the solution. So the problem, basically, he will say the problem is when the niyyah is dunya, was the intention is this world and the satisfaction in this world, that's first of all is a corruption. And with that, then the attention or nazar will be toward this dunya that he called the ismi nazar. So ismi nazar means you look at the things, in terms of the worldly part, in terms of the material part, and the outcome will be just a worldly outcome. So the solution, he suggests that the niyyah has to be changed first, and the nazar has to be changed as well. The nazar should be the harfi, not the ismi. Now, what does harfi and ismi mean? I will explain that. Essentially, this comes from Arabic grammar, that we know ism and harf. That basically, in ism, everyone knows, like, kitab, it's basically, it's the name. So you describe something, so it has a meaning when you say it. So say, in this case, when you basically, you say, hada jawal, so, and there's this phone, jawal is a phone, al-jawal. So in this case, ism is describing something, but harf in Arabic, itself doesn't have any meaning. It can only have meaning in relation to other things, like ala, tahta, wara, inda. Has no meaning by itself. It's only when you say, wara, okay, wara what? You have to, it points something else. You say tahta, under, tahta what, there has to be something else. So in this regard, Nursi says, like this huruf, the whole creation alone doesn't have a meaning. They point to something else. That's why Nursi called the Harfi perspective. So the Harfi perspective is basically looking at the creation as, and again we put it in this way, we say that everything has 2 dimensions. Ismi showing itself, Harfi showing God or revealing God or pointing something else. In this case, the creation point to God. So essentially, the example we use for that one, we say is like a traffic light. So when you look at the traffic light, so basically the ismi will be you look at the color, the shape, the size, the cause, all of them is actually Ismi perspective. But when we say Harfi perspective, we mean what is the meaning of traffic light? Oh, red means stop. Oh, green means go. So the Harfi is all about the meaning. Ismi is all about what is really observed in terms of what it reveals itself. Harfi is the meaning. Nursi's argument that basically we live in an age that we look at the creation through the Ismi perspective, which means we completely forget the meaning of creation. And I think, Dr. Alparslan studied Heidegger. I think Heidegger's, when I read Heidegger, I say Heidegger's whole life was telling people the being has a meaning. Nursi, not only he says the being has a meaning, he shows how to read the meaning of creation. And I will say Heidegger, he did struggle to really tell people to say the being has the meaning, but he couldn't know how to read because he didn't have the divine guidance. And therefore you say, okay, what is the outcome when you read Heidegger? Nothing, because you don't know how to read. Nursi, he actually realized the being has the meaning, and he says you can read the being through the light of Quran. And therefore he took it that Iqra, the very first ayah, revealed in a way that you read the creation in the name of God, which means in connection to God. So essentially, the problem he described, that when you, let's say here you're going to teach them, about the traffic light. You teach everything to students in school, except you don't teach the meaning of the traffic light. Now what is the point of this education? Because the whole point to really teach the meaning of traffic light, they're going to avoid the accident. Nursi's argument is exactly what the secular education is all about. So the whole emphasis about the instrumental knowledge, if we use Heideggerian concept, is all tools about like study the components, study the color, study the cost, study the engineering behind that. But whenever you say, this has a meaning, let's teach the meaning, they say, no, you're not supposed to talk about that. This is science. Science is not supposed to talk about the meaning. With the assumption it has no meaning, because that's when they say that one. So in this case, Nursi think that is the problem, and that shall not be accepted in this regard. So basically, everything is a sign, ayah in Quranic term. So it has two aspects, signifier and signified. That means there is a meaning inside everything, which means everything's, when we say everything, is not only objects, event as well has a meaning. Whether it happened to us or it happened to society, which means that everything should be read like we read the Quran. And actually, I use in some of the workshop, and I think I get some objection when I ask question, I say, which one is more sacred? Is this the universe or the Quran? And I heard that some people are not happy when I say the universe is as sacred as the Quran. But then I say, look, the Quran refers to the universe as an ayah. It says the bird is ayah. It says the stars is the ayah. So basically, if those are the ayah, that means the universe is the Quran as well. And Nursi explicitly used this one. He says there's Quran Kareem and Quran Kabir. That the universe is the giant Quran, in which that everything is an ayah. And you're supposed to, through the light of Quran, read the universe as a meaningful book, not just an object to manipulate. So in a way, the mirror example Nursi give as well. When you look at the mirror, if you look at the glasses, what is the point? You look at the mirror for its reflection. As the mirror is there to show the reflection, and you get the mirror for this purpose, the entire creation are the mirror to the divine names. That means when we look at the creation, we're supposed to look at to see what is reflected in them. When we study tree, when we study fruit, when we study animal, when we study the stars, they're all like a mirror. What is reflected in them? All the divine attributes is reflecting in them. So in that case, it doesn't matter when we teach physics or chemistry or biology. In every subject, we should be able to see the reflected divine names in that. So again, the problem is basically, the problem is to looking at the creation with Ismi perspective rather than the Harfi perspective. We use the analogy of the VR for that to describe what is the thing. And the idea, again, what will happen, basically, if you don't know the meaning of traffic lights, you're going to pay the price with your life. And I think that's exactly what the humanity is paying the price now. As we go through our life journey, once we lost the meaning to read learn how to read the meaning of creation, then we lost our direction. And then we do all kind of accident, as I mentioned, if you really look at it, and you feel as if we are going to lose the whole humanity. Because we lost the divine guidance, we don't know how to read the sign in the creation. So essentially, this is, if we summarize Ismi and Harfi, so you can see here, so Ismi intention is a secular, is all worldly. And when intention is worldly, the attention is toward the Ismi dimension, it's about the physical dimension only. And then what you see is just what is out that you observe. Nothing, no meaning, nothing else. Harfi, your intention is basically Rida Ilahi, your intention that you know everything are creation of Allah, and your intention to read the reflected divine names in them. And then your attention is toward the meaning, not toward the physical side. Like if you get the Quran, if you know the Arabic, you're not going to pay attention to the paper on which the Quran is written. You're going to pay attention to the ayah and the meaning of them. So in this regard, the attention should be toward the meaning, and the perception will go beyond the physical dimension, will also include the metaphysical dimension as well. So again, I think that is, so essentially, the problem in this regard is how, as we go through such brainwashing in a systematical way, in maybe last 300 years, how can we truly, understand the problem and then come up with a solution in terms of knowledge, in terms of integration of knowledge? Of course, we have, I know that some, what we really look at it first, how we can diagnose the problem and how we can come up with a solution. And the way that we do, we're gonna, show in workshops over the weekend. Essentially, we think before the integration, there has to be filtering of existing ideology. So we cannot just get the scientific knowledge from the West and then add an ayah and hadith and say, now this is integration of knowledge. In our model, we think that is not a good way to do so, because if that knowledge has a poison, we have to remove the full poison first. So in our model, first, we try to filter out the embedded ideology. Second, we actually don't add an ayah and hadith, we extract the existing ayah in the universe, because the ayah is already in the knowledge. So when you study physics, chemistry, biology, inside them there are already ayah. So in second step, we extract this ayah. And in third step, we integrate with the ayah from Quran and the hadith. So that's how we do in 3 steps. So first, we filter out the existing ideology. Second, we extract, before integrating or adding something, we extract what is already there. That the ayah is, you study flower, you study star, you study moon, whatever you study. There are ayah there, we extract them. Then third, we integrate, we add it, the Quranic ayah or hadith to it, and then it thinks that could be a good integration. Again, for that reason, we established an institute. We had a debate, should we call it or not, but we ended up calling it Institute of Integrated Knowledge. But again, we know integration of knowledge without filtering and without extracting, in terms of just being eclectic and adding, we think that is really a not good solution. And again, we still, we're struggling to see what is the best way. We try to provide some education materials to teachers, to the schools. We just, at the very beginning of this, but we really, very happy to be here, and then hopefully we're going to, learn something from your experience and have a fruitful discussion to learn more on this issue. That's all I think, Alpason Hocam. I did in 33 minutes.
Thank you very much. More or less, we understand what is meant, and more than that, actually, what the problem is. I would like to emphasize one thing. In the discussions, we can talk more about this. Sometimes I hear when we talk about this Mana Ismi Harfi, I hear participants saying, you know, how can we use these as a methodology in sciences? I would like to emphasize that actually this is not a method. It cannot be a method because his perspective, as he tried to present, perspective doesn't mean method, but it determines your method. So that is why you need to develop that method. And the purpose of this workshop is actually directed towards that. Utilizing this perspective, how we can develop a method. One more thing that I would like to remind you again, this is not something original that Nursi developed. It is already in our civilization all the way from the beginning. Many scholars, they always did, although they may not have used this term, Mana, Ismi and Harfi. I don't remember if anybody has come across with that. Please let us know. It will be very good. Only today, when I was coming, something strange happened. At the airport, we were waiting for the airplane, and the airplane was delayed. You know who came to the airport, also traveling? All the Istakians know him very well. Professor Bilal Kushpinar. I was surprised at the airport, you know. Actually one day earlier we talked on the telephone. He didn't tell me he's coming to Turkey, going to Ankara. Actually, they had a meeting. So, and I was waiting. I saw someone, you know, came for the airplane. Oh, I said this. So I called him, and he was surprised. Oh, what are you doing here? So why did I mention this? It's because it's good. I told him. One time he mentioned it to me that actually Maulana Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, he uses this term in his Masnawi. Now I remember that, so I asked him, please find that and page, send it to us, because Ustaz, you know, Nursi, he's very much from the same tradition, reading all these books. Probably he took the concept from him also. So therefore it is not something, you know, original, but it has an originality that we should try to understand. He wanted to apply it to modern science. This is the original thing. That he said, you know, in order to save humanity, you know, from what they have developed in the West, as you know, I usually say Western scientific tradition has become not only secular, it has become atheistic also. I mean, when you read, anybody reads Western science books, you can see it introduces two perspectives. It's a perspective, they don't mention it. Perspective is not supposed to be mentioned, you know, in the book. It gives itself, and you capture it, you get it from that. If you continue constantly, this is what happened in the Muslim world actually, in the mid of 20th century, when they started translating many books. Muslims, they got this idea from them, from the West. It has become more and more secular. So that is why, you know, this has become extremely important. He taught, you know, as he mentioned, when those high school students, they came, you know, he was in jail in Kastamonu. He was, because most of his life actually was in jail and in exile. He was sent, if you don't know, you know, the history of modern Turkey, you should read. Why did they put him in jail? You know, what he's teaching the Quran, Actually, many times they killed those who taught the Quran. It was prohibited, you know. If you wrote straight line like this, they will put you in jail. They say you wrote alif. You said no, it's not alif. I just because no, you are teaching secretly. You are teaching Arabic. It was extremely dangerous, you know. After 1925 until 1950, you know, this was like this in Turkey. The main agenda was to erase Islam and anything that leads someone to the reminds you know Islamic past. They wanted to ban and destroy it. So that is why he was there, and then in the jail. So these students they heard that there is, you know, one scholar, you know, very famous. They heard about this. They came. They asked, you know, about these, you know, our teachers talking about these sciences. But what they meant actually, they didn't say, of course, they are denying, but actually, the way they teach science denies God and erases, you know, all the traces of religion and so on. So that is why he decided to apply this to, you know, modern scientific methodology, so that maybe in future, he was hoping that if many people are trained in this way, inshallah, they will try to change the course of history, especially as far as science is concerned. So the second presentation is our beloved friend from ISTAC again. So today we'll be continuing from ISTAC, and tomorrow, inshallah, we have very nice scholars now. They are taking over from us. We are old, and now it is their turn, inshallah, to continue and to teach. I am sure you probably heard about Dr. Adi Setia. He is excellent actually in this area also. I am very much happy that he also is trying to utilize this the way Professor Al-Attas is using in the title of Al-Attas' cosmology. So cosmology is extremely important for us, mana, harfi, and scientific appreciation of nature. So we'll listen to him also, and then inshallah we'll continue our discussions.
Okay. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting me, and also I feel very honored to be with among my professors. Professor Afaslan was my teacher at ISTAC. And alhamdulillah, so it's a kind of intellectual reunion. And actually, I was supposed, and actually, it was Professor Wan Muhammad Noor, the deputy Professor Atas, was supposed to be here, but he couldn't make it, and he asked me to take his place, and that is the reason why I'm in front of you. So, and then to fulfill that task, I'm going to talk about this title of my paper, which is this is on the it's Al-Attas' cosmology. Okay, right. So maybe I can use this. It's too far with me. So anyway, or maybe when I read you can. So the title of my presentation is Al-Attas' cosmology, gnosis, magna harfi, and the scientific appreciation of nature. So the point of this title is that when we understand nature as a book of creation, which basically our cosmology, then and if we try to understand that further to Nursi concept of the magna harfi, right? That will in practice leads to the scientific appreciation of nature, meaning shukur, meaning the way we do science, the way we and the type of technologies and how we approach and study the things and processes in nature. We study with appreciation and not with manipulation, right? So modern science is more about manipulation. It's more about it's all about ta'yir khalqillah. Whereas for Muslim, we study to appreciate. So that is the gist of my paper. So as you can see from the abstract, Alatas's a cosmology or conception of the nature, here understood as the world of sense and sensible experience. As a book of creation can be integrated with Nursi's makna Harfi interpretation of natural phenomena to arrive at a rigorous, systematic Islamic semiotics of nature. And just yesterday, I found out that Professor Rajib Center has actually wrote a paper on Islamic semiotics of nature based on Nursi's makna Harfi, which he traces back to Ibrahim al-Haqqi. So by which a systematic Islamic semiotics of nature, by which the natural sciences can be redirected towards the appreciation, shukr, like giving thanks to Allah for the blessing of Allah that are manifested in natural entities and processes. So redirected away from the current trajectory, the current suicidal trajectory of manipulation, right? Ta'yir and destruction, ifsad of nature. And I think Professor Necati Aidin's book, I think he wrote a book, Psygnosis and Science in Islam, Character Building through Nursi makna Harfi. So that means even in the process, like when we study physics or chemistry, the so-called hard sciences, for understanding the mechanism is actually not the main objective. The main objective or higher objective is the inculcation of shukr, right? When we are more aware of the wisdom of Allah that manifested in physics or in chemistry, in farming and so on, then we increase our shukr. And when we increase our shukr, our appreciation, give thanks, that would build up our character. Interestingly, there is this famous, for those who know him, this is famous Japanese founder of natural farming, Manosabu Fukuoka, when he said that the whole point of farming, right, is not about producing food. Of course, that's one thing. That's just the immediate utility. But the deeper meaning of farming is the perfection of human beings. And actually, when the farmers do farming, the farmer is reading the book of nature, meaning the winds, how the sun, the soil, by physical interaction with nature, right? There's a interaction with the soil, with the sun, with all the makhlukat, right? And the farmer must understand, and must not understand from afar, but actually in the mud, in there, sweating, and that will build up sabr and build up tawakkul and build up. And it has a big impact. So that means that when we say reading the book of nature, it's not just like you read from afar. Because when you really read a book, like a good novel, like Lord of the Rings, or when we read Nursi's book, when we read, we lose ourselves and we go into the book. We are in the book. We are interacting with this concept and that concept, and we become that concept. right? Like when we read, instead we spend like hours just sitting in the garden or just reading, trying to understand Islam and secularism, and we're just right, you are in the book, right? And for those who love, like for me, I really love Lord of the Rings, by Tolkien, which is the philosophy is about in fact it's a critique of modernity, and the Ring of Power is actually of modern science and technology that drive to control and to use and dominate for control and for profit and when you read that book, some of us might become arrogant or become arrogant or become Legolas. So reading the book means interacting with the book, and one of the reasons, to read the book or to read, meaning how do you read that tree? How do you read that forest? How do you read the landscape? Right? So that means the study of nature means you must be in nature. Right? But the problem now in the modern life sciences is called the life sciences, but actually it's the death sciences. Because what they do, they go out to nature, they take a sample, like take a frog, and then they bring back into the lab and cut it up, right? And the frog is dead. And the purpose also that the student can look at how the heart beat. But this is a flat. It's dead. It's not a frog. Because the frog is an ayah or word. But to understand the word must be in its ecosystem, the whole system of sentences. And that means to study the frog, the ayah must put the ayah within the whole context of the sentences of other ayahs. Meaning, to study the frog, have go out to that book where the frog, this word frog live, which is the pond, right? And see how the frog jump, go into, and how it's related to other ayah, to the worms, to the insects, and how it control the insects, and how it relate to the snakes, so that when there are more frogs, then the snakes don't go into your house, right? Right. So that's it. So that means in practice, the way we study biology, science of life would be study live frogs or live things. Meaning you have to bring the student out into nature. Alhamdulillah, nowadays there are many schools that like nature school. No, we don't bring samples into the class and cut it out. And just imagine if they are like Malaysia, thousands of schools and millions of students, and if everyone would go out and take a frog and bring to, and they will finish, the whole ecosystem will be finished. Alright, and just one frog. See, but so actually the so-called life sciences is like death sciences, because it's based on kufr, based on no respect for the ayat, which is living ayats, right? So I'm going to just read very quickly. I'm not how everything. So in this cosmology, the world of nature is viewed as the analogous but created counterpart to the uncreated revealed Quran. So we have the Quran, and in the Quran we have many verses about nature, right? And therefore the Quran is like telling us how to read the physical nature, how to understand, right? How to understand. For example, the Quran talks about, in fact, there's a lovely series of verses in Surah Abasa. It's all about how Allah has sent the rains down and interact with the earth, and the plants grow, and all the interconnection in nature. So Quran, when I have the Quran, it actually tells us what is the grammar of nature, and when I understand the grammar, then we get at the meaning, right? So the basis of this analogy is that both are essentially self-consistent, integrated system of science, ayat that tell men about their creator / author, right? Therefore, the external world of nature, the world out there, and the internal world of the human psyche, because by nature mean the external nature and our inner nature, right? That means that the Islamic psychology, as in Tasawwuf, is about how to read yourself. A lot of people stress, they get critical, they don't understand themselves, and then they go to the psychiatrist and get this drug and that drug. That doesn't solve anything, right? Because your problem is that you do not understand yourself. That's it. So that's a big problem here. So Western, not only Western biology, but even the Western psychology is so messed up. It's a mess. It's learned ignorance, like just now, like Professor Aydin just said. So therefore, the external world of nature and the internal world of the human psyche provide an autonomous, meaning like you have Quran, and then the world out there is like it's like a sensual expression of the intellectuality of Quran, right? So that means our perceptual experience of nature confirm the truth of the Quran, and the truth of Quran inform how we look, how we interpret what we see, right, out there, and this indicated in the verse sanurihim ayatina fil afaqi wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. So that means Allah has revealed the Quran, and then not only that, Allah also says He will give you empirical proof. What Nursi say, the material proof of the truth of the Quran, right? So the truth of Quran is confirmed by our experience of the world, provided we know how to read the book. I mean, provided we read with a heart that is filled with shukr, not a heart that is filled with ego and greed and vested interest, right? So therefore, the external world of nature and the internal world of the human psyche provide an autonomous experiential avenue by which any rational human being can be brought to affirm the truth of the message of the revelation. In other words, the truth of revelation is verifiable through experience. Of course, to explain the levels of experience, but even a level of common experience, like which both non-Muslim and Muslim they have access. And now in Western science, the thinking non-Muslim they feel that something transcendent, right? Nature cannot explain itself. There's something transcendent, right? Of course, up to that experience of this Sufi, which is higher experience. So it's verifiable in experience, whose meaning, the meaning of your experience, the meaning of what you see, is in turn informed by the Quran, right? So that is a two-way relationship. So this cosmology is of course in full congruence with Nursi's cosmology as outlined, for instance, in his Al-Ayatul Kubra, which is a lovely summary of Islamic cosmology. The supreme sign, observation of a traveler questioning the universe, according to his great, which is a very beautiful summary of Islamic cosmology, which of course we can re-articulate in systematic philosophical terms or in that rhetorical term, but it's a lovely. In fact, the supreme sign is basically Islamic semiotics, meaning our ayatology. So So the world is a great open book, and so every detail therein encompassing the farthest horizon, the afar and our very self, our unfus, is like a word in that book that speaks to man about its author, right? So there's a lot of conceptual interrelationship, like conceptual congruence between Prophet Atta's conception of the book of creation and Nursi's makna harfi. Right? Inshallah, I will touch on that. So I think I shall just next page 2. I just jump to this this statement by Prophet Al-Attas. Now the word as it really is a sign, a symbol, and to know it as it really is to know what it stands for, what it symbolizes, what it means, what it connotes, what it denotes. To study the word as a word, like to study the ink, or to study the shape of the letter, or to study whether the ink is made of, I don't know, made of water or oil, or when you read the book, I mean the whole point of the book is not the pages, the whether is of this type of paper or that type of paper. It's not the materiality of the book, but to study the word as a word regarding it as if it had an independent reality of its own, is to miss the real point of studying it. So like that great novel, The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings is not, I mean, it's there because of the author. It's not there because of its material, the material stuff, the printing, So the material is actually of secondary reality, because the key reality is the intellect, is that transcendent intellect that produces that book or that creation. So just as the letters and words and sentences constituting a book are never studied solely for the sake of unraveling their former syntactical and morphological structure, the so-called laws of nature. So when scientists study how the planets move, and when scientists study water and so they see patterns. They see that all the processes in nature, they follow a certain pattern. Just like when we read a book, we see pattern. The pattern are the syntax, the grammar. For example, the scholars of the past who look for years at the Rosetta Stone, right? They look because they know it's some kind of writing. They know, but they look and then finally they found some pattern, right? So and so the laws of nature are like patterns. But the point is that, but then do we study a book, or for example, do we read the Quran just to learn the nahu, just to learn the grammar? Of course, that means that grammar is there, the sound, but the grammar are like structures, right? Pattern that convey information, that transcend, that is above the grammar. The nah is for the sake of the makna, right? And that means that if modern science, they study when they find this law or that law, and then they try to change the law, they try to manipulate, then it destroys the meaning. Well, like in modern biotechnology, okay, they discovered the structure of the DNA, and then instead of shukr and respecting that structure, now they're making a lot of genetic engineering. No, they put the gene of a fish into a bird so that they can create a bird with scales. What kind of stuff, man? That year, no. That's crazy, because when we find patterns, then these laws of nature, they're not only natural laws, they are moral laws, right? So when Allah show you the laws of nature, then there is a moral imperative to respect those laws, right? That's it. Because you come and just change and mix it and mix it's crazy. But modern science is all about ta'yir, right? Change is satanic. And that's what the Quran said. The Quran said that Satan himself said will cause man to change the creation of Allah. Right? It's crazy now. So there's no respect because there's no. It's like when you read the Lord of the Rings. Oh, and then you think Tolkien the author made a mistake here. Maybe no. So you go in and change you change the plot, you change the arrangement, and then you republish another version of Lord of the Rings. That's tahrif, right? Ta'yir also. Of course, when you mess up when people there's some very bad edition of book. They different from the original, and people sometimes they come and tell that irresponsible. But so you do. So that tahrif of the book when you try to mess up the meaning, but when it comes to nature as the book of creation, that tahrif is a ta'yir. You actually put all the process, you mix things up, you do all kinds of manipulation, right? It's crazy. So that's one reason why nature is being destroyed, because the whole point is not shukr. There's no point. The whole point is to they discovered patterns in nature, and then they think, oh, the patterns are imperfect. Maybe I can improve, right? I can put more pesticide. I can put more poison into the soil so that I can grow more crops. No respect for how the roots interact with all the microorganisms in the soil, right? No respect. In fact, modern agriculture is totally ignorance of the unseen biome in the soil, which is very essential for how the roots of the plants get the nutrients from the ground. It's totally, all they think is just fertilizer, kill all the pests. It's pests. In fact, when we do natural farming, and Islam we have that science called al-filaha, which is and a large part of that is the science of the soil, meaning how to understand the structure, the microorganisms, meaning how all these micro ayat can interact to produce that healthy tree and so on. So lot of understanding, and but now all that is gone because just poison. And to us the word or the term pest is, for us, that a pest is like a sign. If they say when you have a garden and there's a lot of pests, that means there's a sign, there's a message that you are doing something wrong. Just like when you find yourself always tired, headache. So of course it's a nuisance, but then it tells you you're doing something wrong, and the solution is not to have more drugs, but the solution is to maybe change your lifestyle. Maybe you do something. Maybe you need to have more rest. So all these are signs, of course. So one ayat point to the other ayat to form sentences, and one sentence point to the other sentences to create a book. So there is a horizontal signification, how the microbes in the soils are related to the roots, and how that the interaction provides nutrients to the plant, and then how related to the fruits that grow, and then so there is an aspect of the ayah that is of maslahah, meaning when as utility, provided you respect and act within the parameters of the hudud, of the pattern, of the sunnatullah, right? Otherwise, you may get a short-term benefit, but you get long-term destruction. Right? And then, but ultimately, from there you get deeper. You get more. You really feel like the miracle, the power, the wisdom, and the mercy of Allah. Like for example, I planted a tree, and then for example, I planted a few trees, and then I forgot about that tree, right? Because the rain comes and just grow, and then one day I come and there's fruit. That's or when you have goats and then you get a baby through that physical, that you experience. In fact, you experience the Asma Allah Husna. He's Alim, he's Hakim, he's Razak. You actually experience that through this way of reading nature by interaction, not by abstraction, not just by just. And therefore, for us, the qualities that we see in nature, like the rose, for example, Professor Rajab Center, he started with the rose. It's a rose, just carbohydrates and this compound. No, the rose is much for beauty, much for it relates to our emotion. It has that qualities, and for us, qualities are more real than quantity. Right? The color red or blue that we experience, the quality of light, for us that's more real than the quantitative wavelength. You see? In fact, from this perspective, quantity, even that quantity is a function of quality, and the quality is more real. The experiential richness is more real than abstract wavelength, right? That the light, the sunlight in the morning through the trees, that the golden sunlight, and for us, that goldenness of that sunlight is more real than the photons, right? Or there's so many wavelengths and so on. So there is a horizontal network of meanings that translate into maslahah, right? Meaning for our welfare on earth, right? But even that is not the ultimate, because that will produce shukr, and that will produce more understanding, more ma'rifah of the asma Allah, and that means that means your akhlaq improve, right? Your akhlaq improve, so that character building is a building of character, and this applies in all the sciences, whether the natural or the social sciences, right? Like in economics. So economics is not about scarcity, but how to allocate scarce resources to satisfy unlimited human wants. Which means that would be an impossible science. How can you say there's not enough resources, okay? But then you say our wants are unlimited. So how can you have a science that is about something that is not enough, chasing after something once they are unlimited? We don't say that. We say that economics is the science of provisioning, of the science of ilm al-iqtisad wal-infaq, because that is stated in the Quran. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu anfiqu min thayyibati ma kasabtum. O believers, provide, infak means to provide, to give provision to yourself, to your family, and you have extra to provide for the poor, for the community. Provide out of the kasab, toyib, min toyibati ma kasab tu. So this whole recycling, it's not about scarcity. Why? Because Quran says, "Wa in ta'uddu ni'matallahi la tuhsuha." If you count the blessing of Allah, you cannot. It's endless. So that means scarcity is created by greed. It's a human. They look into the world, not enough because the greed, right? But if you look into the world with shukr, even $1 is more than enough. Really. Example, when you look at the Eskimo in the North Pole, it's all ice, right? It's nothing, just like polar bear ice. But people are living there for thousands of years. They never talk about scarcity, right? Or the nomads in the desert. It's nothing, just sand, hot. I can't imagine Malaysia is all raining, alhamdulillah, but I can't imagine people in the Middle East and it's just no water, but they living there. So it's crazy. I mean, so everything is so messed up out of this misreading, right? Or out of arrogance, they do tahrif. They change the plot, right? They change the plot, want to improve. No. You're not the author. You're just a guest. You're just a reader, right? So I mean, it's like anyway. Okay, I don't. So that's Prabhata's. You can read from now. Now I jump to Nursi. So anyway, before that, on page 4, then this also impact on our notion of causality. So here, and therefore the way we look at cause and effect is that, as stated by Professor Alatas, cause here, the way we look at causality is that cause is not the concept of causation. It's not understood in the philosopher's sense of the term, right? As cause as something that can effect things, no. But rather in Al-Ghazali's sense of the term, as a cause in this special sense that's brought about by a willing agent. So that means what you say as causes are about condition, right? Condition, a conjunction of condition by which something, right? A pattern of conjunction by which something is brought into being. So of course this conception of causality is of course in perfect congruence with the concept of causality that is summarized in Nursi's book. I mean, it's a short book published also in English, Nature, Cause or Effect. Right? Right. So everything is kun fayakun. Right? Everything is kun fayakun, but there is a pattern. Right? Right? Kun fayakun, but so kun fayakun, everything, like let's say in like gravity, everything is kun fayakun, but there's a pattern, and because of that Newton saw that pattern and he described that in a series of formula. Just like so it's like a chess game. Maybe in the beginning you don't understand chess. So you see Magnus Carlsen with whoever, and then in the beginning you don't understand the pieces. The pieces seem random and there's no unintelligible. But when you observe, maybe after a week, there's a pattern. Then you see, the pattern of how the pawn move is like that. The pattern of the queen or the king or the castle, the rook, or it's like that. So after sometimes you can derive the laws of chess, right? Right? Meaning you can get the mechanism, but then we know that the laws of chess are not the causes for the movement of each piece. So there are lots of chess, but the movement of each piece is still kun fayakun, meaning the decision of the player, right? So the player move this piece, but always move within that pattern, right? So in respect of Allah, it's kun fayakun, but kun fayakun within within a framework of divine habit, sunnatullah, right? So anyway, so that's so ultimately for us, because of this, we do not say that Allah is the ultimate cause, the final cause. We say that if Allah is a final cause, then by necessity He must also be the first cause, the immediate cause. He is both the proximate and the ultimate, right? So different from the Greek. The Greeks say, you have the immediate, secondary causes, which like somehow real and can give effect. Then you have the ultimate. For us, it's all the same cause, the same ultimate, immediate, proximate, the same cause, the same effective, formal, final cause is the same cause, except from different perspective, right? But it's still the same cause. And also say that he's Allah, the Creator, who does all things through all things, right? So it's just all this. So what I said causes it's just how we understand. It's how human beings understand the unfolding of divine wisdom in creation, right? So when you talk about causes, time, space, proximate cause, they're just, for us, we understand as how we try to understand, how we try to understand the wisdom of Allah that we experience in nature. Okay, I'll jump to Rosie quickly, and then we can open for discussion. So on page 8, a section on Rosie's Makna Harfi, which Professor Aidin had just summarized. So in the supreme sign, the observation of a traveler questioning the universe concerning its maker, Rosie elaborates at length on the theme of the universal cooperation visible throughout the cosmos, the comprehensive equilibrium and all-embracing preservation prevailing in the utmost regularity, the utmost qadr, the utmost taqdir, right? Tarkib in all things, from celestial bodies to the earth, and from the inanimate atomic elements to the cells of animate. Everything is order. Everything is system, right? Everything is, when we talk about system, in a system, everything interacts in a coordinated manner. There's no randomness. There's no linear causation. Everything seems to in sync, like, together. So, for example, when you have a cut and then the blood flow, right? So from outside we see the cut, and then after that the blood clot. So the blood clots. So just of course from outside you see that as one linear relationship, the blood flow and then clot cause oxygen. But for the blood to clot, I mean the microchemistry of that, the micro biological, so many things need to act together, right? So who is the coordinator that coordinate all the trillions of processes in order for your blood to clot? MashaAllah, just cannot be by random, cannot be just by, it's crazy. So and that's why it says that solid, inanimate and unfeeling objects that nonetheless cooperate, meaning act in tandem, right, with each other in sensitive and conscious fashion, right? for those who are in microbiology or in molecular biology, those who study the cell, the cell is like a big city, like Surabaya, right? Everything is coordinated. The traffic light, the food, everything, the supplies, everything, and must of necessity, because to rush to each other aid by the power, by mercy, by the command of a compassionate, wise, and glorious sustainer. The coordinator, they make sure everything is coordinated. So there's no accident. Nothing happens by accident. There's no chance, right? Everything is kun fayakun. That means there's no chance. So that means what we see as chance is not something objective out there, but something is a subjective because of our ignorance. When, for example, like Professor Awaslan by chance met Professor Bila. Chance mean you do not know that you are going to meet him. There was no prior appointment, right? That's it. So chances means ignorance. But if you before that say, okay, let's meet at the airport, of course, then that's not by chance, right? Right? See? Like for example, when you drive a car and we turn a corner and suddenly you see something, yeah. By chance you see something, but because you cannot see around the corner. You can see around the corner, then that's not by chance, right? So actually, but then the problem is with modern science, when they say, oh, this happened by chance, they are actually saying that I don't know what is actually happening. So they claim it's statistics, right? And that's statistics. And it's all wahmiyat, right? Of course, they dress up each chance, but then they use jargon like stochastic processes. It's just wahmiyah al-kufur wa hawa. Right. And that's what Quran say about the Dahriyah, no? Say the Dahriyah say, it's time that causes to live and die. And the Quran say, no, you are just assuming. You're just making conjecture. So a lot of science, when it comes to when it comes to like the evolution about what happens in millions of years ago, the beginning of the universe, all that is wahmiyah, right? And anyway, so and what they do not know, they ascribe to chance, and that's a problem. As if chance is an agent, right? When we look into language, how they use chance or Scott, like statistics, as if that is an agent. Meaning their ignorance is the cause of what they see, right? So a lot of things in modern science is total fraud, presented as facts. So that means, like the Professor Aydin said, there's a lot of ideology there, a lot of wahmiyah, but presented as fact, right? See, so we have to throw that out, have to move that out and bring in, throw out or de-westernize. Like Professor said, we have to de-westernize, we have to take out all these crazy ideas that are presented as facts through statistics, through all kind of jargon. Right? We have to take that out, and that needs training. Meaning, we need to have systematic training for students in philosophy of science. That's one thing, and also in applied philosophy of science to have a critical understanding of how scientific reasoning actually works in practice. Right? For example, let's say now it's a fact, the structure of the DNA is a double helix. That's a fact, okay? But so that's not enough. People must understand what was the process that led to that conclusion, and what were the other competing theories. There were like somebody like Professor somebody else, he said, okay, the structure of the DNA is a triple helix, right? After that, they concluded that it's not a triple helix but a double helix. But what was the process that led to that fact, right? And fact comes from the Latin and it means fast. It's from faster. It means to make, right? So a lot of facts in science are like manufactured into accident based on a certain approach to the study, right? Right. So that process of how facts are factualized in the textbook or even in the science journal, right? Because when we read a science journal like in Science or in Science American, a lot of that when I read that, a lot of that sounds like a sales gimmick, no? Right? They have some preliminary study, and then they rush to publish, and at the end they give some promise, all this will solve this problem. So it's like a sales gimmick, no? And people got trained in philosophy of science, straight away they can see whether this is a serious paper or just something that is just very very modest but projected as something big, right? So a lot of the science journal is like a big marketing scheme. But because we are so brainwashed by the West, it's published in Nature or published in the BMJ, then it must be the truth. Why? Because we do not know how to analyze. We do not know how to read, how to play their language games. Right? See? So for us to take out the ideology aspect and we need to train people not only in philosophy of science but also in applied. So inshallah in the discussion we will actually mention the textbook that must be taught to students. Okay, so in his application of the words and in the disposition of the winds, tasrif ariyah, and the clouds held in discipline order al-sahab al-musakhar between the heavens and the earth, Nursi draws attention to the fact that lifeless volatile elements of the winds, the clouds, do not act of their own accord but in accordance with the orders, with the amr of a powerful and knowing commander to serve the function of aiding all animals to breathe and to live, all the plants to pollinate and grow. We know that for us to breathe, so many inorganic elements, for us to breathe, so many instantaneous coordinated things need to happen in our metabolism even to breathe. So and I mean breathe means so in the 10th window of the 33 windows, making known the Creator, Nursi explains the verses 32 to 34 of Surah Ibrahim. Allah is He who has created the heavens and the earth and causes water to descend from the sky, thereby producing fruits as food for you. Okay, so Allah has created the heavens and the earth and causes water to descend from the sky, thereby producing fruits as food for you, and has made the ships to be of service unto you, that they may run upon the sea as His command, and has made of service unto you. Tashir, sakhara lakum, meaning made of service unto you. Right? The rivers, the water cycle, the sun and the moon, meaning the orbits of the planet, constant, stable, right? The orbits of the planet, the orbits of the atoms, of the electron, stable, right? Constant in their causes to be of service unto you. Meaning, and has made of service unto you the night and the day. And He gives you all that you ask of Him, whether by lisan or hal or by word. Even when we don't pray, right? We are always praying, because we are always in need, right? We are always in a state of existential prayer, right? Isn't it? He gives you all that you ask of Him. even when you're not consciously asking, right? And if you count the bounties of Allah, you cannot enumerate them. Now in the modern world, because most of us are cut away from both of creation, from nature, we are in this box called our apartment, right? And then we go out, next day we go out to a smaller box called the car, right? And then we go to another box called the office or the factory, and that's it. So all our life is just spent in these three boxes, right? And we do, so if you we do not notice the heavens, whether it's a full moon or cloudy or whatever. We don't even notice the earth, right? Because we just zipping from one point to the other point. We don't even, everything is now here, no, we can buy, and we don't care whether the river is clean or not, right? So, and when it rains, we just it's raining, but we don't care whether it's. And sometimes we don't know where the rain actually fall from the sky, because of course never look at the sky, right? Producing fruits. But how do you know that? Because we never farm, we never go to farm. All we do is just go to the supermarket, and all just there, right? So and make the ships to be also unto you. I have a friend whose job is he captain of merchant ship. So would work for 4 months on a merchant ship. He's a captain, and then he come home for 4 months rest, and then the company will call him, and then he just goes. So they may run and say, "Your command has made of service. Service unto you the rivers." You don't go to rivers. We don't swim. We don't interact. And make the sun and moon constant in the constant. We don't even observe the sun and the moon. Right? Really observe me. You sit down and you just spend time there. Right? Sometimes when we read a book, you have to spend time, right? Like, each time I used to just, I come in the morning and in a garden and read a book, and it's Zoho, just stand, just there. That means to read the book, you must be in the book. So to read the book of nature, the book you must be in creation. In Allah's creation. Then you understand how everything is kun fayakun, how you can see. But if you are in your own artificial world created by hubris, right? Then of course you can't read, or can just only you can just you just understand the superficial meaning of the word river or the word moon, but don't really look at the moon, right? It's good on a full moon, clear night, you sleep outside in your garden. Of course you have a mosquito net, but clear, and you just sit down and then you can stare at the moon for 1 hour, and then you go off. So then the world will reveal to yourself, right? So you must have patience, right? So like a book, you cannot just browse through a book. You have to understand. We have to observe. So in natural farming, when I have a land, like a new farm or new place, the first thing you do nothing. You spend 1 year just sitting there and observe. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ on your land. Then, because after 1 year, you see how the land is in summer, then in autumn, and then in winter, and then in spring. Then you know, alhamdulillah, you know the overall pattern of relationship between the ayahs and in that place, and then maybe you can start doing something. Okay, maybe I have my house here, and then I have my food forest there, and then maybe in the middle there's some open space for veggie, and then you so that after that everything you do fit into that pattern, right? Inshallah, when you do that, alhamdulillah, there be harmony between culture, meaning human life, and nature and natural life. There be a symbiosis, right? And that's mentioned in the hadith that that whenever you plant a tree, and if the birds or even if someone take from it, it's charity. Meaning there's symbiosis between culture and nature, provided we have a culture, a civilization that respect the sunnatullah in nature. Otherwise, we have the current modern culture which is so imbalanced, right? Overconsumption, a lot of wastage, and so on, a lot of crisis, and so the mutual assistance and solidarity of beings in the universe, and the fact that they respond to one another, show that all creatures are trained by a single instructor. So Allah Ta'ala says kun fayakun. At once kun fayakun applies to the whole cosmos, and at the same time applies to everything, every particle in that, to the whole, and to every part in that whole, right? So yeah, but it's systemic. Systemic is meaning that things just happen at once. It's not, because it's not linear. Nothing in nature is linear. Everything is your blood thought. That blood is a systemic process. It's not from A to B. It's A, B, C, all kind of things just acting together. No? So therefore, so evolution is impossible. Evolution is the current ideology of science. So that is impossible. And finally, I think I'll stop at so that means that everything in nature points. For example, you see the frog points to the pond, right? And that pond points to the ecosystem. You see a tree, the tree points to the forest, the forest points to the river, to the water cycle, right? And if you see that, then you will do things according to that connection, and you do not mess up the connection, right? And when you respect that connection, then you appreciate the wisdom of Allah, how He made everything so connected, right? So of course, in the study of science, we get the masalah, the material use, the material benefit, but all of that is that la'alakum tashkurun. All of that is that you say Alhamdulillah, and there's an interesting Al-Fawr Razi, he was making a tafsir of this verse about how everything has been made of service unto you. He says that when I drink a cup of water, say okay, I drink a cup of water, and I say Alhamdulillah. So from superficially, as if we are saying Alhamdulillah, as if we are saying Alhamdulillah for one ni'mah. But in that cup of water, inside that one ni'mah, is infinite number of ni'am, al-afakiyah and al-anfusiyah. Why? Because for the water to be there, it's because it relates to the weather, it relates to the climate, and the climate is related to the solar system, how the earth is of a certain distance from the sun and not too far, not too close, otherwise we know no water. And related to how you take care of the environment. If you cut all the trees, then finish and there's no water, right? And then so many things, so many afakia conditions must happen for the cup of water to be in front of you, and not to mention the merchant or the manufacturer who make the cup, everything. The workers who bring the water to you. So when you say Alhamdulillah, you're actually saying Alhamdulillah for all the external condition, natural or human, for the cup of water to be in front of you. And when you drink it, for me to be able to drink it, I mean that means I'm healthy. I can just drink from my mouth, and I can. People are so sick, they can't. They have to inject, and some are so sick. Also, how much they drink, they still don't feel stated. So that means for that cup of water to be of benefit, so many alpha condition and so many amphusia condition, meaning your health, your metabolism, your physiology, all your internal nature must be healthy for you to be able to enjoy. So, alhamdulillah, when you say alhamdulillah for that drink water, you say alhamdulillah for all the cosmos at every moment, right? So that's alhamdulillah. And people say that philosophy is a mutakallim, like just a dry intellectual. But when you read that, it's very, it's very Sufi, right? It's very like, so, yeah. So that's very everything points to Allah directly, and also through the masoleh that we derive from understanding the patterns of nature, and when respect that. Otherwise, we might get short-term benefit but have long-term mafasid. So that I think I shall conclude here, and with the conclusion. So I jump to the conclusion. So, there is a professor, Yamine Mermer, I think she Turkish, had this beautiful, he said that it is a great crime for believers to leave this meaningful, wise, and purposeful universe in the hands of the materialists, and turn a blind eye to their condemning it to meaninglessness. Modern science is condemning all this creation to meaningless, just messing everything up. All this transgenderism, transsexualism, transhumanism, everything is messed up. They don't know the whole purpose of what they're doing, right? Or to meaningless, condemning it to meaninglessness, purposelessness, chance, and coincidence under the name of scientific study, right? But it's all ideology of kufur. Right? The believer should take the universe in his, must take back the universe from the materials, science, take back, see as a book, and read as a book, interact with it as a book, go into the book, right? Under the guidance of the Quran, which actually in map, it tells you, it's like map, tells you how to read the book, which teaches the meaning of the book, of the universe, that unlock the meaning of the universe and read it in the name of his sustainer. This is scientific study for the believer. This is true scientific study for the believer. In whatever field of knowledge he or she works, is the duty of every believer who follows the Quran to open up that long distance between cause and effect, and to see the most beautiful names which show themselves clearly in that space, and to display them. So that means there's always a gap between what we see to be the effect and the cause. Like for example, okay, let's say, okay, the apple falls down because of gravity, but is gravity the cause? Because the gravity only describe how the apple falls. It doesn't really cause the waterfall. Maybe the immediate cause is not the gravity. Maybe the cause it has grown ripe. When ripe is heavy, and then it falls down, right? Or the wind blows and it falls down. So the causes of what happens in nature is not the laws, it's not the mechanism. The mechanism just described, right? The laws of nature is how scientists describe how nature works. Let's say in terms of mathematics, right? But what is the real cause? For example, okay, when we say the apple falls because the apple has ripened, but ripen means the whole processes that goes in the apple for that to ripe, or the proteins has to happen. Where does it? So at the end of the day, it's always the names of the gap, the divine names of the gap, of the distance between every cause and every effect, however small the distance. So even you go deep into the subatomic, the so-called nuclear forces, there's always a gap, right? A gap, and that gap can only be filled when we invoke the relevant asma Allah, right? That fill that gap. So, so conclusion from the above consideration of the Atasian and Norsian philosophy of science undertaken through a cognitive frame of Makna Harfi. So Islamic science is axiologically less utilitarian than intellectual moral. It's more about the intellectual and moral improvement of the character of the scientist or anyone who studies nature. Hence the outer, meaning the material, the outer utilitarian, meaning the usefulness from in terms of techniques and technology, dimension of science is to be subsumed under constraint and guided by its inner intellectual moral dimension, meaning syukur, right? And not vice versa. So that means for something to be truly maslahat that we produce from science, for that maslahat to not turn into mafsada, we have to always put the maslahat within a higher intellectual moral framework. Without that, easily a maslahat can be turned to mafsada, or even a mafsada can be misunderstood as maslahat. In fact, modern science now can't even tell the difference between a real benefit and a harm, right? Like modern medicine, a lot of drugs are just like it's harmful, right? For example, you have a symptom, so you take that drug, and then okay, it does get rid of the symptom that creates 10 other side effects, and then you buy 10. So it's crazy. It's okay. So a masalah, everything is so messed up, right? So in this conception of the scientific appreciation of nature, intellectuality, the ilmi dimension or the cognitive dimension subsume or guide or has priority over the immediate worldly dunyawi utility. Okay, shukran. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, now the floor is open for discussion.
Can I say? Really?
Okay, please.
Ladies first. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Ladies first and last.
Wow, it's long and it's beneficial. So, thank you so much. I would like to thank actually Prof. Nekati Aidin, Prof. Asparslan. So hard to mention. Asparslan. Okay. Also, of course, Dr. Adi. I'm Betania. I'm from International Institute for Halal Research and Training. المعهد العالمي للبحوث والتدريب في منتجات الحلال, International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM. I would like to thank, mashallah, the meaning of Makna Harf and Makna Ism has been elaborated very clearly and also simple by Prof. Aidin. Jazakumullah khairan. Also, today in the morning when we talk about the understanding, when we talk about the foundation, it's very important as well. When we remember that heart plays very important role, even when Allah says that أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا, and qulub is always been addressed. The same thing, even one ayah which says that lahum qulubun la yafqahuna biha. The understanding here is by the hearts. So all this made us, inshallah, understand more. But I would like to ask two questions here. Number one is that when Ustad Nursi is always talking about the balance of science, yeah? Whether it's religion and also the Western. We called it, what is it? It's the combination of two. He doesn't believe in one, not only Western knowledge and not only the religious that we say. Does it have any relationship with, for example, one ayah which says in Surah Al-Alaq, the very first ayah revealed, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اقرأ بسم ربك الذي خلق. We understand that the word or the verb اقرأ قرأ itself is from the الفعل المتعدي. الفعل المتعدي يعني يحتاج إلى مفعول. It needs object. But in this particular ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not limit the object, the maf'ul, just iqra. So, which means that read anything, يعني في القرآن وفي الكون. لأن يعني هما كلها آيات, يعني both of Quran and also the universe is, they are both signs of Allah. We are allowed to read anything, but the sharat, the condition is that we read in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not sure, maybe it can be explained. And number two is that Dr. Adi was mentioning about farmer, fallah. Okay. It reminds me in the halal science when we talk, this is one of our research. For example, in Surah Al-Baqarah 168, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا. So, is it that the application of ma'nai harf and ma'nai ism, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says kulu, eat. So of course kulu is food. The same in the Surah Al-Baqarah also 172, when Allah addresses the believers only. I believe that, of course the first is Ya Ayyuhan Nas, believes all mankind. And then the other one is addressing the believers. Kulu min at-tayyibat, kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum, washkuru lillahi in kuntum iyyahu ta'budun. So Ustad Adi, kulu here we usually eat food, but behind this food, so this food we understand as ma'nai ism, which is food itself. Kulu, the maf'ul, of course, of the kulu is food. But can it be that the ma'nai harfi from this particular ayah is that the food starts not only food that we see, but we have to think of this food comes from cultivation, right? The seeds, the raw material, the production, the process, the delivery, that now in the halal industry there is what we call even halal logistic, halal transport and all this. So thinking of all this, we are going back to the creator of the food itself. So we are going back to the Surah Al-Baqarah 172, which says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum, kulu, this tayyibat. And the implication of eating from what Allah has provided us is washkuru, yani shukur. Maybe these are my two questions. Thank you so much.
These questions are not asked us to the whole floor.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will not be a workshop, just dialogue between 2-3 people. So it's open for everyone. Anybody wants to reply, most welcome. If we want to say something, we can also say something. So anybody wants to respond? Yes, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya diumpulkan bahwa sekolah ini adalah apa sana Pak Hamid, Prof. Atisya, and Prof. Mentor ID and audience. This Jadi, I am Muhammad Muslim. I am from Universitas Gontor. I think the presentation is very, very important, very enlightening. Thank you very much for presentation. I apologize here. I want to share my different opinion. Maybe I don't know. In my opinion, by holding this workshop, it is true that the issue of integration between religion and science is an important issue or a global issue, because in fact it has become the concern or attention of all scholars, not only religious scholars who are concerned about the loss of the divine aspect in the development of science, but also has become the attention of scientists. For scientists, they see that there are many fundamental questions that cannot be answered with scientific work, but require metaphysical answer, even theological answer. Of course, this should be welcome. However, scientists cannot accept this, because the solution that they get is too simple, namely only by justifying scientific finding with scripture verses, for example. For Muslim scientists, any activity, including scientific activity, must be based on the Quran, or at least not contradictory, not conflict with the Quran, but of course not with the justification model like that. The reform kind of formula or the sign for the development of science based on the Quran must be back. It can give birth to science that is scientific but Quranic, or scientific science that is Quranic but still scientific. For this effort, I think studies to find epistemological basis as well as ontological basis related to views on the nature of reality have been very supportive, but studies to formulate methodological basis, I think, have not been carried out, even though the end of anxiety over the loss of religious aspect in science, the birth of a new science that is religious but scientific, or science that is scientific but religious. After 5 years, maybe this is going on. The world community, the world society is waiting for the birth of the new science, but it still has to be supported by a new methodological writing as well as, the methodology of scientific research that position religious aspect as an inseparable part of the development of science. I think this is for me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Very good, Annie. Yes, Dr. Uy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Paslan. Now, before I came here, actually I didn't understand the meaning of makna Harfi and makna Ismi. And then I tried to discuss with some of the friends, and they showed me that it is actually derived from Nahu, from grammar. then I remember my matan ajrumiyah. Okay? When I was small, we have to memorize, okay, this thing, right? Al-kalamu wa lafzul murakkabul mufidu bil wad'i wa aqsamu salasatun wa ismun wa fi'lun wa harfun ja'a li ma'nan. That is basically the meaning. Harfun cannot stand on its own except to show the meaning of others. All right? So this is actually, that's why the stress of Syed Nursi is on the makna harfi. Why? Because this harf is basically showing the meaning of this alam into God, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so from his statement he said that hadhi mawjudat kalimatun dalat ala ma'anin fi ghairiha. So this is basically the essence of what we call a makna harfi. All right, and then in the presentation of Professor Aydin, though he thought about the integration, but this integration must be initiated by the filtering out of the so-called wrong ideologies. Now, actually, Professor Alatas in this case is more specific. What is meant by this bad or wrong ideology? In fact, he mentioned about 5 characteristics of what we call the Western civilizations. And of course, by filtering out these bad ideologies, in the terminology of Prof. Atas, it is called de-westernization. Okay, so he's talking about the Islamization. Of course, integration is part of it, but before that, we should initiate with what we call the de-westernizations. And these Western civilizations basically has been characterized by 5 characteristics. The first one is the secularism, and then the rationalism, and then humanity, dualism, and the tragedy. Of course, it needs to be elaborated, but these are basically what we have to filter out from the sciences before we are Islamizing or before we are integrating, of what is in the Quran, for example, or from the worldview of Islam. And another thing, of course, when we talk about the nature, we say the nature is like fitrah. We say the nature is basically fitrah. And it's derived from the word fatara. And one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Fatir actually. Although the scientists are talking about the nature, but when we ask them who created the nature, they will answer, well, the nature is created by the nature itself. This is absurd, right? Actually, the nature is created by Al-Fatir, by one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is basically actually they are just a step away, okay, from this ma'rifah, of fitrah and Al-Fatir. Yes, I want to relate this to to the economic issue, like money, for example. And this makna harfi is for the meaning other than the alam itself. It is like money also. So money, the significant aspect of money is not the materiality, but the function of it. Why? Because the function of money is basically as a medium of exchange, regardless of the materiality of the money. Why? Because we know that the history of money, starting from the commodity money, gold money, or now it's paper money, or even in the future we have what we call the cryptocurrency, which is basically not even tangible. So here also the meaning of makna harfi is the meaning itself, okay, rather than the thing in itself. So that is actually what I can what you call it, I can get from this symposium at least. Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
One point I agree with Dr. Uki, but I found in the thought of Ibn Taymiyyah, there are 3 fitrah. First is fitrah in the universe, and then the fitrah in the human being, and the fitrah munazzalah is the Holy Quran. This is Ibn Taymiyyah say. And the three is also have ayat, ayat kauniyah, Quraniyah, and ayat nafsiyah. What we need actually is that we have to create a methodology how to interpret the ayat kauniyah from the Quran. I mean, combining the interpretation of the Quran with our interpretation of the nature. But we have also to develop the individual ayat, I mean, the al-Fizikum ayat, the individual should also have the worldview, the correct worldview, how to understand the Quran and the universe. I think it's more thing we have to do, but how to derive the ayat from the Quran, which is related to nature, and how to understand the nature, which is relevant to the Quran that has been created by God, Fatim Samawati wa. This is the point I want to highlight what Dr. Ugi said. Thank you very much.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So just briefly, since I think it's relevant to both of them, the way I look at it, I think for Latas, I read almost all his work and really benefit. But I think one thing you'll find in Nursi, the emphasis on self. Nursi will start with self ana first, and then he will say that the essential part first, there is this connection between creator and self. You need to re-establish and read the self properly, like what, even when I look at it, just an example, how everywhere the most common mistake is reading of the self, particularly come with the self-help idea, that in a sense that you say, like here I look at, you have self-reliance. Self-reliance is actually very secular, because the Islamic Tawheedi one is God relies, is tawakkul. But self-reliance comes from the Western idea that you need to believe in yourself and rely on yourself. While the reality of self actually is nothing, that you don't have a power, you cannot rely on yourself. You have to rely on God. So Nursi, the very first things on Nursi when you read, he actually elaborates on the concept of self. So I say there are 5 things. He says, first, read self properly and see how it's connected to Creator. Second, he says, look your connection between yourself and the universe. How the self within you is a microcosmos of the macro universe out there. The second connection. The third one, he says that establish the connection between Creator and the universe. So to see how everything in the universe is his act. The fourth one is to see the connection between Quran and creation. So in other words, you read the Quran and see the creation, they are both, the ayah come from the same source, so you connect them. And then finally, to see the connection between Quran and Sunnah, because you go Quran and you see the Prophet as a practical example. So in a way that really we try, so what we're going to have it in 2 days, things we try to, in our 5D approach, we try to come up with a model of how to re-establish such connection. Because we see the whole problem is this connection, that how we can reconnect in a way that we can put God at the center of everything. That's really, and when I, in this regard, I think when I look at, let's say, Latas in terms of describing the problem and saying that there is a poison that is very good, but I say what is the solution that in terms of how I'm going to accomplish something, bring adab, I see there is integration of Islam there in terms of bringing an ayah and hadith, but Nursi will say you can extract before that. Because it's the ayah, as I think Dr. Al-Passon is mentioning, is very important that we look at ilm and fiqh as separate things. Fiqh is the name of science, ilm is the absolute truth with God. So in this regard, is actually ilm as a haqiqah is already out there in the universe. We don't have to add it, we extract from that. But what we need to do, we just need to see how we can read along with Quran, how to see how they're connected to each other. So that's, I think, is one of the, in our methodology, we try to put it in the steps that we say, we're going to filter it out conceptually and ideologically, and then we're going to extract it. The way we extract is by showing the interconnectivity and interdependency. That's the way we connect to Creator. And then basically we link to the Quran and Hadith
to establish this connection as well.
Thank you very much. Yes, Sister.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum. I'm going to say something very simple, which hopefully will put everything in context. Yesterday, when we were picked up from the airport, we had a long journey, and we got in the car, and there was some lovely packaged fruit there, and some lovely food and snacks. And we got in the car, and I looked at it, and I thought, oh, alhamdulillah, somebody has given us a gift. And so this is really the essence of Mana Harfi, from my understanding, that when we look at a tree and we see the fruit on the tree, you know, secular science given us the perspective that there's a process by which this comes, and that's the process that we focus on. But we don't see the gift. We don't see that the gift has been put there by the Creator, and not just the fruit on the tree, but any type of food. There were snacks in the car as well, right? So anything, whether it's whether it's bread or whether it's meat or whatever it is, this is something that, you know, we interact with these things all the time. But do we see it as a gift from the Creator? So Mana Ismi, Mana Harfi for me is a very simple approach, that we remove that secular veil and we attribute that gift that we can see all around us to the one who made it. Jazakallah khair.
Yes, Dr. Shamsuddin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, and I truly enjoyed both the presentation by Professor Najati and also the elaboration by Dr. Adisitya, my dear friend. But I have some concern. I think while it is true that we must be critical of modern science, but I'm afraid we are making maybe too many generalizations. Universities consists of, the way I see it, you may agree, you may disagree with me, 4 dimensions. The technical dimension, that is the know-how, which of course all students are expected to master, to be scientists. They have to pass all the exams and also do all the laboratory testing, etc., etc. The technical dimensions. The second one is the epistemological or philosophical dimension. I think this is what maybe Prof. Al-Paslan, Prof. Alatas has been trying to explain, that we must look and dig and explore this. There's a book by Edward Butt, I think, The Metaphysical Foundations of Modern Science. So this is the philosophical dimension. The third dimension is the historical historical dimension. This is what we study as a history of science, meaning students, and of course professors as well. They must be also be aware of the background of their respective disciplines. But unfortunately, I don't know the situation in other countries, but in Indonesia, for example, students of science, they're not so much exposed to this philosophical and historical dimension. And the fourth one is the ethical or moral dimension. I think what we are attacking is perhaps this one aspect only of modern science, the ethical or moral dimensions. That is how science has been in modern times has been used, or rather misused or abused. I think like Dr. Adi said, you know, resulting in the imbalance between the masalih and the mafasid, meaning on the one hand we enjoy the masalih of modern science, computers, handphones, all these technologies, but on the other hand we seem to forget, or maybe we neglect, we close our eyes to the mafasid, the destruction, the harms that it has brought upon our, not only the physical environment, nature, but also even on our psychology, on the society. I think this should be put in a proper perspective so that we don't sound like anti-science or I'm sorry, I think we yeah. And I have also a question to Prof. Najati. While Badi'u Zaman Said Nursi, you know, is encouraging us or telling us to have a different perspective when we study nature, by looking at it as a sign pointing to the Creator. I was wondering, because I myself have not read the works by him myself. I wonder whether Said Nursi has like rational or logical proof that the world is created by God. I mean, how did he explain? I mean, how did he come into the conclusion that the world is created by God? Because that is the basic assumption of what we are talking about. I think we must be clear about that. Because the Mutakallimun, for example, they say that we can see, we can look at this world, the universe, including ourselves and everything, objects, facts, events, all this as a series of accidents, for example, as an a'rad, which, borrowing the Mutakallimun's term, which do not survive 2 instants of time. There's a la tabqa zamanain. So there comes the theory of recreation. Or should we see if we keep saying, well, the world is created, there is a creator, or this is the universe is pointing to its creator. But first of all, I think we must settle that in the mind. I mean, there are always people who are inquisitive, who are curious. How do you prove, rationally or logically, that the world is created? Yeah, thank you.
I just want to make one point, and then before I forget, then you can answer. If you just let me say something, because you know, for at least 2 centuries, we haven't been practicing Islamic scientific tradition. For 200 years, that means we have forgotten its basic approach, and its concepts are almost lost in our minds, of course. but not in the sources. They are already there, alhamdulillah. At least so we can revive it, in other words. It is extremely important, therefore, to study this, that I would recommend. And Ustaz Nursi is trying to bring this also, and for this reason, although he wrote in Turkish, he never used any Turkish words in the technical sense, because that will destroy Islamic scientific tradition. He used the previous technical terms developed by the ulama and scientists, which is Arabic, in other words. So when you take a lot of times, when I show the Rasail to our Arab brothers, they say, oh, this is Arabic. But when they start reading, oh, why is it so difficult? I said, yes. See, it's because of this. So why do I say this? Because I would like to indicate two concepts here that are extremely important. When we know that something exists, but we have difficulty, to understand, and sometimes even we raise doubts about it, although we know that it exists. And Muslim scholars, in our technical terms, we use the term wujud for this. But if we inwardly know that it exists and it is self-evident, there is no doubt about it, we don't use the term wujud anymore. Because wujud expresses doubt at the same time, in the technical sense. So we use the word haqq. Al-mawtu haqqun, we say. We don't say al-mawtu mawjudun. Because then you have doubt, oh, maybe there is no maut. There cannot be death, maybe. But when you say haqq, that means there is no, it's self-evident. You don't, Allahu haqqun, al-mawtu haqqun, and all in our creed, when you read the creed, you will see, they don't use the word wujud. Because in wujud there is, you don't have yaqeen. Yaqeen is not self-evident type of, it's ilmul yaqeen, in that level, that's it. So that's when you were talking about this, then I said, you will not find any proof for God's existence in the Rasail. There is no proof at all. Why? Because there is no doubt about it. It is haqq. As this one, and again in the Quran also, you don't find. You don't see any argument in the Quran. Look at this, how this happens, and this, and therefore God, this is God. There is no such, logical order, because the Quran just directs our mind so that we can realize it. That self-realization. When it comes, the doubt, then it becomes clear. Then we realize it is self-evident. The famous saying of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, that it says, if the veil of the ghaib is lifted, and I see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my iman will not increase at all. Because it is self-evident. I mean, the way he realized, that realization is given. But then what does he do? Okay. He rejects the things that, bring doubt about his existence. This is in an indirect way, in other words. Like he wrote the Tabi'at Risalesi, right? The Risala for Tabi'at. He wrote that why not to prove God's existence, to reject Tabi'at as an effective agent. But once it is realized, automatically then self-realization, that consciousness comes to our mind, and we say this is haqq. So this just came to my mind. This distinction is very important. As far as these concepts are concerned, a lot of times we use, because we translate from English. Muslims, they never use it. Proof for God's existence. It's because they have doubts about it. That's why they have to. There is one, I don't know if this is true or not. They say Fakhruddin Razi was, traveling a lot. In one of the towns, he was invited, and then many scholars, people going to listen to him. And as they were running, one old lady was on the street going, and he saw everybody is going to the same place and running and rushing. He stopped one of them. He said, "Son, please tell me, what is this? Everybody is going this way." Well, he said, "Mother, don't you know? Fakhruddin Razi is here, everybody wants to listen to him. But she never heard. He said, who is he? Well, he said, don't you know, he is the famous mutakallim who gives 100 proofs for God's existence. He said, oh, Allah, he has 100 doubts. He's giving that, you know, why he needs to do that? I mean, right, this, again, this, you know, a good example for that distinction. So it just came to my mind.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so I think let's me, before I answer that, I think her questions was, I don't want to be fair, it's a question on food, Ma'na Harfi, you know. I think when you look at Ma'na Harfi, the way we can look at the food is not the farming alone, that's one thing, you can get it, but actually when you eat food, food is food for your stomach and body, but in terms of its meaning, when you reflect and read the meaning in that, that becomes food for your mind and heart and other faculties. In other words, you say, oh, that means the one who made this food know my needs. That means actually he cares about me. That means he loves me. So in a way that basically, when you eat food, you're not only just feeding your stomach, when you read through the Harfi perspective, you're feeding all other faculty as well. So the Harfi perspective in a way is actually feeding all of your faculty, because everything is not just addressing your stomach, addressing your mind, addressing your emotions. So you try to read the meaning. What does he saying? How he says, you know, so basically, let's say you see the beauty, you say he's al-jameel, or then you learn about, because you're curious about creator. And now you'll see the creation, you see the attribute of creator, so you get an answer to your question, who he is. So in this regard, that's the Harfi. Harfi is really going beyond the physical dimension, driving the meaning and that for yourself. So the second one, in terms of really, you know, the language, I agree. I think we have to be careful. We're not anti-science at all. When we use it in our things, we try to qualify, say, materialist ideology in science. Or we say embedded secular ideology. We never say science in general. We always use this adjective to qualified, which basically we're saying that we don't have any problem with science. Not only that, when we prepare our workbook now with the 5D approach, the title, in a way, we put it Science Secrets. In a way that's saying, look, we have no problem with science. Come, we're going to tell you some secrets in a science they don't tell you. Let's come and find our secrets. So actually we put it in a way to look at science in a positive way and attract their attention to what they don't really tell us within the science that comes with the science. So therefore, so we really, we have to be, we get a lot of warning anytime we have such workshops, anything. So first people get the impression as if we are anti-science when we attract the attention to the embedded ideology. But as soon as they go through the workshop, they see what we're doing, they all become extremely pro-science. They think science is the science of God, it's an amazing thing. We really need to study science. So they leave the session with the great desire to know science and appreciate science. But we just need to perhaps work on the language. The question of proof file, I'm going to say something maybe, I don't know how you're going to take it with what Dr. Al-Paslan says. I think that's really essential to see how we're going to put it, how we define the relationship between creator and creation. So in this regard, Nursi is very, you know, he's basically followed the common Quranic way. So basically you'll find in scholars, most scholars, Ash'ari scholar particularly. So Nursi is occasionalist in this regard. He will actually say that the creation is constant, is happening from moment to moment. So everything is being created every moment. So it's very Ghazalian, very Ash'arian point of view. But the way Nursi explained, I don't know the others how much they explain that. Nursi used those concepts of ibda and insha to explain this creation. He says basically, let's say I'm talking about water. How does water, what is the connection between God and this water? Now, first of all, Nursi will say, this water that you get it is actually being created every moment. There is nothing, no water can stay in existence for even a moment.
Every moment is just being recreated. Second, but how this created, he will say there are two things. The ibda, insha part is there hydrogen and oxygen that's out there, and God put them together and create water. So in this case, using hydrogen and oxygen, creating water, that is ibda. But creating new property that doesn't exist with hydrogen and oxygen, so that is ibda, sorry. Using hydrogen and oxygen, that's insha. Insha is to rearrangement. Arrange hydrogen and oxygen and then create water. He says this arrangement of existence particles is insha, but the new property in the water, which doesn't exist in hydrogen and oxygen, science call it, the secular science call it emergent properties. Nursi says, no, this is created new properties. And that, he says, this is ibda. Therefore, he says, every moment, there is both insha and ibda. But if you read a little bit deeper, Nursi will say every insha also has ibda. Which means that even though God used hydrogen and oxygen, create this water, but actually this hydrogen and oxygen, though it existed there, but it has to be recreated every moment. Therefore, even this hydrogen and oxygen are actually new hydrogen and oxygen. They are not like the hydrogen and oxygen that come from a Big Bang, because everything's created every moment. The way I get this one, basically, ibda is the essential things, which means there is really nothing but creation. There is no causation. Hydrogen and oxygen does not cause the water, because water, property of water is cause created by God. Hydrogen and oxygen itself does not have a nature to stay as is. It comes and goes right away. Every moment it be recreated. So in a way, when you really look at it, the only thing you see is creation. I had it in my slide, but we don't have time to go over that, and we really discuss in detail. This part is very important. Finally, the question of proof part, that obviously comes in terms of how would you make a case that it is God causing the water? Is it not like property of hydrogen and oxygen causing water, or is it natural factors or natural cause that one? I think, in my judgment, Nursi use intuitive evidence for that. So intuitive evidence, basically he's using, and I think he used everywhere intuitive evidence. Intuitive evidence is basically a form of evidence. Nursi will argue through tamsil and tashbih. He will argue is actually much greater than the logical evidence, the evidence they will use in logic. Nursi's argument is this. He says, look, like I have a headache, let's say. If I have a headache, I directly have experience of headache. Even the whole world bring all kind of empirical evidence tells me you don't have headache, I am not gonna listen to that. Why? Because I have direct access to the evidence that I call this intuitive evidence, period. I have headache. So similarly, Nursi will say that you intuitively know for this water to come into existence, there must be knowledge, there must be will, there must be power. Without this, it can never happen. How do you know? You know from your own experience, because you mix something as well. You go and cook something, you make a drink, you make a food. So what you understand from this experiential knowledge, that there must be someone with a knowledge, will, and power behind that. Ilm, irada, qudra. And therefore, Nursi will say, for you, as long as you, as a human, have such experience, you can use this experiential knowledge. Nursi uses wa'id qiyasi. Wa'id qiyasi is kind of analogical thinking through the concept of self, with which he will say that everything will become signs of God. So in this regard, Nursi actually, like 22nd word, it's full of signs. Nursi says, actually he will directly use burhan. He used the word burhan when he talks about God. So in a sense, he is, he gives many that example to the level. His analogy is exactly this. He says the existence of God is extremely self-evident, like the existence of the sun in the daytime, at the noon when there is no cloud in the sky. Now, during the daytime, when there's no cloud, do you see the sun? No, because the sun, you cannot directly see the sun. But what you see the reflection of sun. the reflection on the sun in the atmosphere or every object, it's extremely intensive. You must be blind to deny that. Nursi's argument that the sign of God in the creation is extremely intensive, even more than the reflection of the sun. Therefore, his argument is that unless you're willing to close your eyes or you'll be blinded that you cannot see the signs, there is absolutely no way to deny the existence. So Nursi provide like 33rd word is full of such evidence. So as the Quran point to the signs, Nursi point to signs of God in the universe to show the existence of God. But not logical argument as we see, let's say, the Kalami argument. Nursi does not really engage in the argument of, oh, do we need the God as a first cause? Because he does not accept God as a first cause. He believes God is the cause of everything, and therefore he provides this type of evidence. And I think he uses evidence even as a word, because we know that evidence he uses directly many times a burhan for the evidence. Okay.
Thank you very much. It was a very good start, alhamdulillah, today. We are heating up for tomorrow. Inshallah, we will continue with our debate. So, see you inshallah tomorrow morning. Yeah. We have a coffee break also for those who would like to have some coffee. And then Asr prayer also.